1 week season.
Guys, welcome in today. Hilow is really liking a little bit of a game stack between the Cowboys and the Jets. I'm sure you may already know why. He's going to break it down for you guys today. And with that, guys, he is Hilow. You know him well. I'm Cheeseman, your host. This is the DFS Lab presented by 1 week season. Today is Tuesday, September 30th. And like we always do, just building a lineup, looking ahead to week 5, obviously very early in the week, always the disclaimer there. So there's still a lot that could happen between now and Sunday at lock, but we're already starting to look at strategy and potentially field tendencies. So guys, if you would give us a like, subscribe to the channel, we'd love that. And with that, Hilow, how you doing, man? How's it going?
Good, dude. Stoked to be back. Like you said, we do these every Tuesday. Last week, we actually did it on Wednesday. We recorded late to accommodate my schedule. I had a friend in town, like a high school best friend, came out to visit us.
Gotta make the most of those opportunities.
Yeah. So like both of my best friends from high school, like we lived at each other's houses all through high school. And one of them, the one that came out, he stayed in Phoenix. So it was cool when we lived there again, the past 5 years after I left active duty, being able to like have them over on Sundays and stuff. My other closest best friend from high school moved back from Dallas to Phoenix area, like right after we did. So it was cool, like having the band together for 5 years. And then of course, like I ruined that and moved cross country. But my buddy had some holiday days set up, saved up, so he came out and spent a week with us, so that was cool.
Dude, same for me. Yeah, when I was in college, like I went to school in Idaho, University of Idaho, left for a while, came back, and one of my really good friends from school was still there. We hung out for like 5 years, and then I left, and I'm just like, damn, like that.
Yeah,
it still hurts. But man, I was thinking about kind of like one of the terms I feel like you've coined at this point when I was looking back at my week 4 lineups, and it's like so critical to find those games where, for lack of a better term, and you've coined this, teams get to the oh shit mode much sooner. Like if they don't get to that point, a lot of these teams, save for maybe a couple who are really aggressive, they just don't really like to push the game, and they'll just kind of run, they'll take their time, and you never get those scores that do result from when a team's like, oh shit, we're down by 21, time to just throw everything out the window and start going.
Yeah, and one of the games that I liked the most last weekend was that Ravens and Chiefs game. If you weren't watching that game, you wouldn't realize that like these teams hit the oh shit mode like in the second quarter. The Ravens go down, they march the field, they score on their first possession. And then we have the Chiefs kind of like their oh shit mode kicked in right away. They're like, okay, we have to like be more aggressive with this offense. And if you look at like how Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce, even their post-game pressers from that game was like, that felt good. Like we haven't had this the past 2.5 seasons. They were like, that felt good. Like we need to play more like that moving forward. So like that was not even like the oh shit mode of that game. That kind of to me was like potentially the oh shit mode for their season last week. So that's kind of what we're looking for when we're attacking game environments. It's like that layer of unknown and uncertainty that we can't quantify, but something that sparks the game and sends it into like you had to have this game or you were not winning. That didn't really happen last week. There were a lot of the afternoon slate where they kind of started slow, like the Bears and the Raiders started extremely slow.
Early
turnovers stuffed in fourth down and failed red zone drives. Yeah, it was just a lot that like. The other side of that coin too is like those teams were set up very well to shoot out, but there is like, this is football and there's variance and we don't know what's going to happen. A failed fourth down on your first or second possession kind of sets a different tone than had they punched that in. So there's a lot like that we can't really quantify, but that's kind of the thing of what we're trying to do is like position ourselves to attack the spots where we can get a chunk of our roster right at once, win the most money if we're right. That's why I really liked that Chiefs and Ravens game. Obviously, like fell apart from there. The Ravens struggled to move the football. Then Lamar gets hurt, and it didn't really come together. But I was big on Xavier Worthy last week. I had a ton of him everywhere. He looked like he stepped right back into the clear like primary focus through the air. So that was good to see. There's some spots this week that I think we can take advantage of where we might not have seen it yet. but I think the upside is there. So we'll talk about some of that here as well.
Absolutely, dude. Let me. What do you want to jump into here in terms of contests? I got the Sunday slate pulled up. Didn't know.
Yeah,
if there
let's
was
do
a
another
specific
spy.
one.
Let's do a single entry. We can even do the red zone, which is like the $50 version of the single entry. It's a smaller field if you want, but it immaterial really. Just talk some single entry stuff.
Entries. Yeah, here we are in the red zone. $50 entry fee, and yeah, like we led at the top. You like this Cowboys Jets game, but do you want to look at some other stuff first? You want to jump right into that thing?
Yeah, let's talk about that thing. So this Cowboys and the Jets game, I was kind of surprised to see that it didn't open the week with the highest game total. That currently is so the Cowboys and the Jets have a game total of 47.0. That's currently the Raiders and the Colts at 48. There's a lot of paths to me, just on first glance, to that Raiders and Colts game disappointing relative to that game total. One, the Colts, they're not really a splash play team. They're looking to sustain drives. They're looking to kind of assert dominance. They're looking to have JT kind of lead the way. You look at Daniel Jones. He has one pass touchdown in every game this season. Could have been two last week with Achane, that unfortunate fumble. We were on Achane pretty heavily at OWS.
Dude. I can't believe I didn't see that play live. I'm glad I didn't, because I just saw like 75-yard touchdown fumble on the CBS Sports app. But man, it's crazy.
Yeah, he just went to like celebrate and reach the ball out and like dropped it as he reached the ball straight forward.
It's crazy when that
anyway,
happens,
I don't know when that stuff is going to stop happening. Of course, it was Adonai. Like that's really what has held him back, is like the mental aspect. But super talented. Anyway, this Jets and Cowboys game. Like, let's look at these two teams. The Cowboys have allowed 40 points, and this is from reverse chronological order. 40 points last week, 31 points, 37 points to the Giants, and 24 points to the Eagles in week 1. The Jets are no longer the like lock them down defense. Like Sauce Gardner is still here. They're struggling up front. They're struggling to generate pressure. They're struggling against the run. Their linebackers have had injuries, and they have gone through massive coaching turnover over the last 3 seasons on the defensive side of the ball as well. So they've allowed 27, 29, 30, and 34 points in 4 games. So these two teams, in 7 out of 8 opportunities in 4 games, have allowed 27 or more points. So that is absurd. These two teams are just giving it up. The Cowboys, they can't stop a fly. The Jets are no longer like, even Sauce Gardner is not, it doesn't have the same metrics as in previous seasons. They are playing more man, but when they do, they're bailing a lot into zone as well. So just a lot of moving pieces. It's probably a situation where they get better as the season goes on, but it's not clicking just yet. So you look at the Jets. The Jets are an extremely concentrated offense, and we can say the same for the Cowboys, but missing CeeDee Lamb is a big thing here. The Jets are already extremely concentrated. Where they haven't been as concentrated is in the backfield this year. That changes, I think, moving forward after Braylon Allen picked up a knee injury on a kickoff return last week. So that's big for expected red zone usage. So Breece Hall, we saw it again last week even on their first drive when Braylon Allen just kind of they got inside the 10 and Braylon Allen jumped on the field. You look at the snaps, the route rate, the opportunities in the red zone, and this team very clearly wanted Braylon Allen, the bigger back, to be like their red zone, green zone, goal line dude. So I would expect he's going to be out. It looked to me like a knee sprain. Braylon Allen walked off the field. He walked to the locker room. He was never really ruled out of that game, but he never came back. So if this backfield devolves into a 2-headed timeshare with Breece Hall and Isaiah, then we could see Breece Hall kind of be the red zone guy, the green zone guy, the goal line guy. And in this spot against the Cowboys, that could mean some significant stuff to us. So we like both teams. They're both concentrated. We don't like both defenses. They're giving it up. And now we have like extreme concentration on one side and borderline extreme concentration on the Cowboys. So we're going to stack this game up in single entry. We're going to say Justin Fields plus Breece Hall plus Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Wilson was extremely frustrated on the sideline. He had to be kind of consoled. I don't know what went on. And then I looked at beat reporters from the Jets last night and this morning, and I found one. He's like, I'm not going to say what was said between those two on the sidelines, between Aaron Glenn and and Garrett Wilson. So it looks like Garrett Wilson is extremely frustrated. We saw kind of, even like the telecast, the announcers were saying like, what is the defense doing right now, playing man coverage 2 different snaps in back-to-back against Garrett Wilson? Is like, throw it to Garrett Wilson, let him do his thing. And then sure shit, they throw it to Garrett Wilson and he mosses a dude for one of the greatest touchdown catches of the summer, or of the season. So I don't know, man. I think Garrett Wilson is unhappy. I think that could lead to an even bigger target share this coming week. And you're talking about that against Dallas. Their secondary is banged up. This could be a fruitful endeavor. So just saying, we're going to capture all the expected production. It's like, yeah, Mason Taylor is there. He is operating as like the third option through the air. It's like Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson, then Breece Hall, then Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor is still kind of figuring things out. I think he is not as well-rounded of a prospect as some of these other rookie tight ends. So I'm okay leaving him out here and just saying, like, we can capture all of the expected touchdowns. We can capture 80% of this expected work through the air, and 100% or close to it of the work on the ground through these 3 guys against a Cowboys team, again, who's giving it up. Let's just start there in single entry.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. And again, just the way the Cowboys defense, like you already said, is performing. Obviously there's always the risk of the Jets just like being a bad team and doing bad team things like turning the ball over. But it's about as good a spot as you can get and capturing all that upside.
And we're going to make this team stack a game stack by bringing a Cowboy in. I think the percentage solution for people that do go this route, anchoring this game environment bet with the Jets, are going to bring it back with George Pickens, are going to bring it back with Javonte Williams. So we're going to say we're not going to do that. We're going to bring it back with Jake Ferguson.
Love that. Yeah, dude, he's been busy.
Yes. He had a down target game last week against the Packers. But this is a guy that has notoriously and historically stepped up in the absence of CeeDee Lamb. And currently I think he's sitting as the tight end 2 on the season. I think that's accurate, averaging 15.6 DK points a game. Just needs the touchdowns. And those are so variant. Like, we're just going to say a guy seeing 7 targets as a floor without CeeDee Lamb, that had 12 and 14 the 2 games prior. We're just gonna throw him in, chase the volume there.
Love that, dude. Love it. So we got our game stack here.
Yeah. So then now we'll get to a couple of spots where I think the field is going to be slower to react to these spots. I'll just throw all the names out right now. The first is DeVon Achane. The second is Nico Collins, and the third is Quinton Johnston. We'll talk about those in reverse order here because they're more difficult to easier to talk about. Quinton Johnston is operating as like the alpha in this Chargers pass offense. This is an interesting setup against the Commanders because the Commanders lead the league in pressure rate this season. Per Fantasy Points data suite, they're generating pressure almost 50% of the time, 48.2%.
Wow.
That is a fairly significant rate of dropbacks under pressure that they are generating. That's meaningful to us because we know Joe Alt is going to be out for an extended period. And we saw how this Chargers team struggled when under pressure last week against a good Giants defensive front. So if this team is getting under pressure a lot, we're probably going to see them lean on their primary guys a little bit more through the air. Now, we can say, you can push back, and I will accept that criticism of this thought process. Keenan Allen is always able to get open. Yes, Ladd McConkey has not performed up to where we drafted him in best ball, but he proved to be deadly against zone and man coverage last season. Valid. Quinn Johnston is like the primary guy, though, right now for this offense through the air. We also have with the Commanders, although they are generating pressure at a high rate, they are extremely susceptible to the deep ball this season. They have aging veterans in the secondary. They're getting they're mixing and matching zone and man, but they're not really fluid as a secondary unit just yet. So they've been susceptible to the deep ball, and the guy in this offense is Quinton Johnston, who's operating in that deep role as well. Well, third thing there, when we saw this team under pressure at an increased rate last week, we saw Herbert looking to his first read at a higher rate, and that first read has been Quinton Johnston at an increased rate. So that dime that he threw at the end of the second quarter, finding Quinton Johnston for a touchdown in between the safety and the cornerback, just that's who Herbert is. He is one of the top 3-4 maybe pocket passers in the league right now. So if I'm betting on a member from this Chargers team to really take advantage of this matchup, I really, really like QJ here. And I think the field is probably slow to process the fact that QJ is like operating as the alpha in this offense right now. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And it's just like the Chargers, you typically look, it's like, who's it going to go to is probably what the field is thinking. Also, his price, he's just not priced like an alpha receiver. And so you almost get into that pricing psychology.
It's because he's not garnering ownership. So the salary is not going to take off until these players start garnering ownership. So I want to be early on this. I want to say like he's scored 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. I want to keep hammering QJ before the field kind of catches up here.
Yeah.
Played him last week. All of the things.
All right, so you got him. So your next, I forget which.
Let's talk about Nico Collins. This is another interesting spot that the field might get to by the end of the week, but I don't know where the field is kind of thinking right now. It's probably somewhere in the line of Nico Collins does not look good. This offense does not look good. But now we get a matchup against the Baltimore Ravens where they're struggling to contain teams on the ground. They're banged up. They're missing 2 defensive linemen. They're struggling in the secondary. Pretty much anybody outside of Kyle Hamilton is really struggling in the secondary. And we have Nico Collins coming to town against a team now that could be without Lamar Jackson this week. That's fairly significant for this team that is sitting now at 1-3. So Nico Collins is another alpha wide receiver who we've seen some visible, and Nico is not a guy that like is very vocal. He's not a Jamar Chase. He's not a Justin Jefferson as far as like him coming out and voicing his frustration. But we're starting to see that with Nico. And this is a quieter guy that now is frustrated. This is another spot where I want to be early on the potential breakout. And I think this is a really good spot to potentially have that with this Ravens team that is kind of struggling defensively, struggling to find their identity. They're generating pressure only 34.9% of opposing dropbacks. That ranks 18th in the league. And although the Texans are giving up pressure because their offensive line stinks, they're giving up pressure at an elevated 41.0% rate. This is a spot where I like Nico to be able to take advantage, and I think they're going to try and get him involved early. And that's typically where we've seen like the Nico blow-up games is like not necessarily when the Texans are in catch-up mode, because teams they know they can just like give safety help to Nico and double him and make the Texans beat them elsewhere. It's typically when the Texans are able to like stay in the game, remain fluid, run their offense, build it off the run. And I think there's a good spot, a good chance this week they're able to do that. If we see like the like trademarked Nico Collins 60-yard touchdown in the first quarter, that's where you get like the Nico massive ceiling game. So I like that spot and how it sets up for that potential this week.
Yeah, I like how it's not like he is unique in that he's not tied necessarily to always being in catch-up mode. He can still have big games and it not be like this, shootout.
Yeah, and he's honestly better when the Texans are playing with a lead or a competitive game.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And then the third one there is DeVon Achane with obviously the season ender, potentially career ender for Tyreek Hill. Dislocated knee, there's so much stuff that goes through your knee that like if that gets messed up, like you're worried about arteries, you're worried about ligaments, obviously all kinds of stuff in the knee. It might be like a career ender for Tyreek there. I wish him the best, but the way that it sets this offense up is kind of similar to what we saw a lot of last season. What we saw a lot of last season is they weren't able to work deep, so they had to kind of work the quick stuff. And Darren Waller is actually fairly big. He's a big addition to this offense for that. We saw his red zone acumen last week, or last night, I should say, catching those 2 red zone touchdowns. But this team is probably going to have to be forced to establish the run, work the play action off of it, and a lot of that is going to likely be confined to the short intermediate areas of the field. So like I think a lot of people are going to see the fact that DeVon Achane had 1 target last week and be like, oh my God, Darren Waller's here, he's never going to see a target again. I think this is a spot against a Carolina team where he's going to see 18 to 20 carries, 5 to 7 targets as like his potential ceiling here. So DeVon Achane at 7,300 I think is a fantastic play. We'll anchor the roster there.
Awesome, dude. That leaves us 2 spots remaining. Average of 44,050 per spot.
So I'm going to take this away that the field probably isn't, particularly in single entry. So we could say like, hey, we have 3K for a defense. That leaves us 4 and some change for our flex. We're going to pay all the way down at defense. And I don't know if the field's going to get here this week, but the Saints at 2,200 are back in the dome against a rookie quarterback in his second start without their primary wide receiver, because we just saw Malik Neighbors also suffer a season ender. When we look at that Giants game, this was not a Brian Dable is bringing Jackson Dart in to save the season. He's going to let him sling the ball. Like, no, this was a very conservative game plan that they played last week. It just so happened that their defensive front like kept them able to do that. And they weren't asking Dart to like drop back, throw the football around the field. He had an extremely low and average intended air yards per pass attempt. They were not attacking deep. You remove Malik Neighbors out of that equation, and it's like, okay, they have Darius Slayton who's going to be working deep. They have Wan'Dale Robinson over the short, intermediate, middle of the field, and they have Theo Johnson who like tested more athletic than I think his game tape should. Like he appears much slower on film to me than he tested. Like he tested these crazy metrics, but that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about Cam Scattaboo.
And you liked the Saints. I mean, I remember in week 1, you liked the Saints against like the likes of the Cardinals, you know, that kind of thing, especially at home.
Right. So we'll put the Saints in here. That gives us a little bit more maneuverability. We have 5,900. So let's see what is left at flex. There's one name that I kind of have penciled in here that we can put. So like Alvin Kamara, we don't really want to double. We saw Kendre Miller involved more. That was the thesis with Kamara and best ball, is like he's going to slow down as the season goes on. Chris Godwin was on the field a lot, didn't necessarily look right. We don't want to play him really against the number 1 defense in the league in Seattle. T. Higgins, that the Bengals are just falling apart. We're not going to play them against Detroit. You could go to T here. I would want to go to T if I had some Lions, and we don't. So we won't go there. Chuba Hubbard is interesting. The field probably won't play 2 running backs from that game, but I don't want to be betting on this Panthers team. I called their game 2 weeks ago a complete fluke, and what happened last week, they got absolutely waxed. Terry McLaurin is injured. Trey McBride, we're not going to double up on tight end. So that kind of leaves us Trey Benson as the most interesting player here in this range. We've talked about 3 running back builds being a potential leverage spot already this season. Trey Benson has the backfield largely to himself. Amari DeMarcado is there. But Trey Benson against this Titans defense who's missing T'Vondre Sweat. They're missing some other interior defenders. We haven't seen this Cardinals run game look the same since they lost their run game coordinator. But this is a spot for the Cardinals against Cam Ward, who the Cardinals defense, I should say, I have not been high on the Cardinals defense this season, but structurally and what they try to do, it lines very well with kind of the struggles of this Titans team. They're going to make Cam excuse me, they're going to make Cam have to process a lot. They're going to give him some disguised looks. They're going to give him some disguised blitzes. That's really, really difficult for a rookie quarterback to process. Yeah. So their defense is in a good spot at home. So I like Trey Benson as a spot to potentially see some more volume here.
Love it, dude. And with that, that is the lineup. So for those of you listening on the pod, what we finished on this lineup was the headline of the lineup was this Cowboys Jets stack with Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and the bringback of Jake Ferguson at tight end. And you had DeVon Achane, Quinton Johnston, and Nico Collins, and rounded out with the Saints D and Trey Benson. Hilow, great stuff, man. As always, any final thoughts before we send this one off to week 5? Obviously, still got, depending on when you're watching this, 5 days until we lock it up.
Yeah, this is a smaller slate because we got bye weeks.
That's right, 10 games.
So this is our first small-ish main slate. When that happens, we have fewer opportunities for a team to take off, for a game environment to take off. So it makes attacking those spots that much more important, because if one does, it's unlikely it's going to be matched.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Hilow, thanks for your time as always. And guys, we'll catch you on the flip side next week. Good luck this weekend. And Hilow, once again, man, I appreciate the time.
Peace.